Like any good video made by a 2010s Melee player, let's start by talking about Ping Pong. It's a coming of age framed around table tennis, and it's fantastic. Over the course of a tight 11 episodes, you follow the journey of a couple of players as they go through some kind of metamorphosis, one you as a competitive anything will probably recognize. Everyone likes to think they're Pekka or Smile, the gifted yet unmotivated protagonists. Destined to be something that they're not simply because they haven't kicked themselves hard enough. If they just work a little bit more, they'll be the best. In reality, a lot of people who end up identifying as their hobby end up more like Sakuma, passionate for the game yet ultimately left behind by elements out of their hands. It's not that they don't have the drive to keep up, but they don't catch on quite as fast. Their hands don't move as fast as they need to. Their prescription is too high, that kind of thing. They see players who try less succeed more than them and it infuriates them. Maybe they pick up a bad habit or two because of it, like smoking or watching what is effectively self-help videos about video games.
I mean, he's also stupid.
He's also
Everyone's fucking imbecile here.
Some of us, however, are egami. Disengaged after a loss, they can't help but feel the thing they've dedicated themselves to isn't for them. They travel away in search for joy, only to come back to Japan and discover what brought them joy was the very thing they were running away from. That's me. And maybe you. The solution to happiness is to go to Japan where everything's definitely fine. Egami's character, while fantastic within the show and speaks to a truth about certain types of people, isn't a full truth. At least not from my perspective. I'm very aware I'm doing a character study for a show that you might not have watched, so we'll hop off this soon, but Egami wasn't wrong to go and search for joy elsewhere. In the show, it's presented as his dissatisfaction coming from being a bit of a sore loser. It's not that table tennis wasn't fun, it's that from his losses he wasn't willing to learn anything. That might be true of the character and people in the real world at times, but I don't think that really represents a proper experience of social, creative, and competitive staleness. What comes from not having the will to learn is combined with a drive that comes from both enjoying the process and enjoying the win. Those aspects are fundamental to the hunger in wanting to learn, and if they disappear, you're left with a repeating, disappointing cycle. If you've engaged with the cycle for long enough though, sometimes you still come back to it, even after it's lost the charm. Age of Empires is a game that comes and goes in waves of enjoyment for me, one that ends when winning starts to feel like a kind of sludge between me and the matchmaking queue. Losing irks me and winning elicits a 2-minute wait time, and frankly that's not a healthy relationship to have with any piece of media. Now that said, I wouldn't consider myself an Age of Empires player, an age head. Unk. Putting down an RTS might leave me with stale knowledge, but it doesn't mean I'm stepping away from a piece of myself. I would consider myself a Melee head, even with my time away from the game and generally low involvement nowadays. Melee was a part of my daily life between 2016 and 2019, if I'm remembering correctly. I played for a long time and there's a little bit of boundary either way. It was the game that had me travel internationally for the first time by myself, got me social and out of the house into the real world at a weird time. While everyone else that I knew from my hometown was going to university, I was stuck in the same house I'd always lived in, working a minimum wage job and wondering if anything good was ever going to happen to me. Weird to think that Melee was the good thing. Some people meet the love of their life. Some people hold down on grey and tap down on yellow. So when I stepped away from the game in 2019, there was a sense of closing the door on a part of myself that left me pretty confused. I'd stopped playing because while I'd still enjoyed going to events, particularly internationally, I couldn't stand playing it. A part of that was undoubtedly being a sore loser towards the end. I'd played the game for years and couldn't keep up with the new gen. Players who took a finer comb to the game than me with a greater respect for the intricacies as a game, rather than me who was still trying to view the game as free-form artistry, only when it was the art that I liked on the canvas that I liked. More than that was perpetual closeness. Melee isn't a game that's designed to be played for thousands of hours. I mean, hell, it wasn't even designed to see 2010. When you put 1,000 hours into a game over the course of a couple of years, elements that used to be fun novelties become routine. I think it's more than 1,000. It probably would have been... I would say that Melee is the game that I have played the most in my life ever. What was once a weird quirk of a character starts to become a driving force in your decision making. Situations you used to have to think hard about become scenarios you're so familiar with they become automatic. It's lost the zest, trapped in the same familiar stinky room like a perfume shop employee. Then when those situations you've started to automate start not going your way and require you to adapt, you don't. For as much as the solution to fixing the practical problem is to put work in, motivating yourself to put work in for something that's emotionally stale isn't rewarding. What really needs solving is bringing back what makes the game fun. The reason you're locked into every scenario early is because you have to learn and there's something fun about the novelty of a new situation. The reason you're locked into into scenarios later is because you enjoy going through the motion. Locking out later comes from a staleness. Even if you have to learn, the novelty is gone that kept you engaged in the first place. For me and Egami, this is a hobby after all. Maybe a hobby that your life works around at times. And if you're doing something outside of a profession, the more important element than being good at it is enjoying it. For some people, bringing back what's entertaining really is knuckling down and getting better at the thing they already like. I wish I had your grind set. Some people think they're that person when they're just not. They invest a ton of time trying to get better at a thing that's lost the fire, and when they start improving, they've gotten a bit better without finding the enjoyment that they were looking for. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you come around and still aren't having a good time, you've probably taught yourself a micro lesson in discipline that you can apply to like exercise or not spending 1/10 of your paycheck on blackjack. There are lessons to be learned in even the most stupid and petty of experiences. One of those lessons being that if you've tried everything you can and you're still not having a good time with something you once enjoyed, it's probably time to put it away for a while. Stick with it for too long and eventually you could end up becoming an Asmongold for Street Fighter. After a while away, chances are you'll come back to a game that's still the same but has the spark that you couldn't seem to find at the time. What's missing from Egami's cycle is that once you come back, you end up having a much better relationship with your game of choice. When something becomes frustratingly familiar and you end up coming back to it, not only do you appreciate it more, but you're also able to better establish that distance to the same thing before you end up with that stale feeling again. You don't stop enjoying what you do, but there's a comfort in it being a smaller part of the things that you do. Positioned as a smaller part of a larger whole, you still love the thing you engage with, just with an understanding of how you enjoy it. Melee as a game is something I like to hop into for 30 minutes every couple of months now. I'll get a little more invested if there's tournaments around the time, with a greater understanding that there's environments where Melee is an enjoyable thing to plan a couple of months around. There also just so happens to be environments where it's a fun thing to dick around with every once in a while. Putting a lot of time into Melee doesn't mean that I have to consider it a driving force that every day needs to be built on. There's certainly skills that come under use it or lose it. I normally come back to the game a little bit worse than when I left. But I was never particularly good at it, even if that was my goal at the time. Coming back a little bit Melee stupider with a renewed passion is more important than that. The same can be said for Xrd. Though having gone through the cycle with Melee, I've always been a little bit more aware of putting the game down once it got frustrating for reasons beyond just the game. I still love it. I don't enter tournaments or even boot up the game for more than a couple of minutes each month at the moment, but I still do. With games that rely on investing a ton of time, there's an element of sunk cost fallacy. Having put a bunch of time in, it would have been wasted if you gave up now. What would really put that time to waste though is if you kept pushing so much you turned to disdain for something that once was a good time. For Egami, upon returning to the sport of table tennis, he's able to rekindle his love for the game. It sits as regret initially, that he wasn't there to push his ability further. But what is ability without being able to find joy in it? There's a ton of YouTube channels out there that dedicate their entire life to one particular game, one particular hobby. There's even people outside of that financial incentive structure that just so happen to make their life about Counter-Strike or Rocket League. Sometimes it can feel a little bit odd to look at those people and wonder why you don't have the same drive for the thing that you care about. Some of us just aren't built to be that person, and that's fine. Within an environment where multiple people are engaged with the same thing, some of us will be Peko, some of us will be Kong Wayne, some of us are Sakuma, and some of us are Egami. Together we make a really sick anime.